Hey, welcome to Blank Bodies. Great having you on.
Yeah.
So I have today with me Kirby, the creator of CRUST, a crust punk RPG. Saw the ad on Instagram and checked it out, and it was super up our alley what we do here. So I wanted to reach out and have you on.
Cool. I'm glad that ad worked.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I guess my first question would be tell us a little bit about the game, and I know it's still in development, so your goals for that and kind of your inspiration behind it.
Yeah. So it kind of started as a 4-page OSR zine, and it has turned into a significantly larger game. But definitely inspired heavily from the Year Zero system.
Okay.
I really like the way the dice pool system in Year Zero works. You can see behind me my collection of Free League games. I'm a big fan of dice pool. Originally the game was significantly different than it is now, but it is essentially a monster hunter kind of game. I'm gonna put a heavy emphasis on exploration, like world exploration. A lot of it is going to be generated just on the fly from tables in the book. I'm not really going to have a world map or anything. It's just kind of be open ended as far as exploration goes. But yeah, the idea came to us as a joke. I was trying to come up with some idea to write a role playing game. It was going to be the first one I wrote. My girlfriend was like, "Crust Punks in Space," and I was like, "That's the title of my game." And we just went with it real hard for like months. And it's gone through a dozen iterations point. But we finally kind of reached a spot where we were like, okay, we got like a really good solid base here. Let's put out like an Ashcan version of the game with some of the basics. Let some people that aren't our friends play test it and see what happens. So yeah.
Yeah. So I've only checked out the original 10-page version you put out. Day of recording, you released a new update. But I know you said that was focused mostly on like guns and travel mechanics.
Yeah, so it's just a real simple 2-page update. The one page really. It just has a couple expanded combat actions, just shooting, and there's a full action for aim, increase your hit range, and then crafting Molotov cocktails in combat and throwing them, and then some simple, really stripped down travel mechanics. Basically just how to handle recovery at night, and then I've included 3 guns in there: an anti-cop shotgun, a pistol, and this cool thing I called the circle pit, which is basically a melee cannon.
Nice.
But I'm really excited. I'm not going to, the Ashcan, all the updates of the Ashcan are going to be very stripped down. But I am really excited about the final product because we have probably 24 weapons, like unique weapons created for this game among like a variety of other like standard ones like crowbars and shovels, hammers and stuff like that. But it's been very fun coming out, especially the gun part. I've been very heavily influenced from like Fallout and Unreal Tournament and games like that.
So, question that I've kind of been turning over because I'm actually working on writing my first adventure that's going to end up getting published.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing the first play test for it right now. And writing for something that I'm going to put out and have available to the public is a much different approach than writing for like my friend, which I've been doing for years. But like getting up to the release level, it's a lot different. How did you approach that for this? You said it's your first, so
Yeah, this was so I made a dozen mistakes, and I'll happily talk about them. I didn't know what I was doing when I started this. I had started playing D&D like maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and 3 years ago I kind of just gave up on it. I just was tired of playing it, and I didn't really want to play anything related to it. And then maybe 2 years ago, I picked up a couple of games, and now I have a big collection I've been playing for a while. But I was like, I didn't know anything about the actual industry or writing or any of that stuff. So I was just going at it. And it was definitely a mistake to do that. I should have done a lot more research on how like playtest packets come out and how certain things are laid out, and the layout of a game, not just the actual physical layout or the visual, but the actual layout of the text is very important. But and I'm sure you're aware of that, but That was something that I just completely blindsided me. So I there was a lot of learning on my end in that regard. But publishing things for the public is definitely, I don't find it to be, I mean, I've got a couple games that have come out on Exalted Funeral that are like smaller indie games, smaller little zine games and things. But they are, you know, it's a bit different, but it's not, in my opinion, all that much different. I think it's just more organizing things properly for the reader who you like. I'm assuming the person has no idea what I'm talking about when I'm writing these things. Whereas when I'm at my table with my friends, I can explain it over and over again to them, or they can just assume that I can assume that they are understanding what I'm saying because I know them. I think that might be the main difference probably in publication as far as public consumption versus a
Okay, I like that. And this is hard because I'm writing specifically for Vampire the Masquerade. And there is that balancing of act of like assuming your audience knows like the core rule book, but maybe they don't. And you don't need to reference certain things, or
yeah.
So
that's a big thing that I have run into, was assuming that people know what I'm talking about. And my first game that got published, I actually had that problem. And I've had a couple people actually contact me in private message and be like, hey, I need like serious clarification on these rules. Like, I love this game, but like, I don't really understand this. And I'm like, all right, from here on out, like for smaller things, smaller projects, I'm going to include like lengthy examples on how things work. And that's actually interesting. I was discussing this in a Discord call last night in regards to the actual final product of CRUST, and how I was including these pretty lengthy examples for things that weren't so important because I was so concerned about the perception of a reader. And a couple of my friends were like, bro, you do not need to do that. Like, there are things that you absolutely should put long examples for, things that are not common. But like, I was writing long examples for how dice pools work, and my friend was like, you don't need to do that because people can read the rules and they're like, okay, that's how a dice pool works. You don't need to write a 3-paragraph story about how the dice pool is being used in the game, which is great because I didn't want to have that in there, but I was feeling like I had to. But yeah.
Another question for you. Obviously, Crustpunk, very thematic in the art, the story stuff. How involved are you in like the punk scene in and of itself?
I used to be very. I have not been at all really in the past probably couple years. I had a kid 2 years ago, and that year before with the pregnancy was kind of like the end of me going to shows. But before that, you know, I was pretty involved. I wasn't as involved most of the crusties and just punks in general, but crusties, I definitely not as involved as I wish I was. But I feel like we're kind of getting to the end of the pandemic, and I think I might be back out there and start doing some stuff again. I'd like to get involved in Food Not Bombs. Got a couple chapters, or I think we have 2 chapters here in Philly.
You're in Philly?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm out in Indiana, so it is.
Oh, nice.
But I used to play in a ton of bands. I know I mentioned it to you in a message, but I used to actually run like a house venue with 2 of the other hosts on the show. So
cool. That's awesome.
Definitely experienced like the full range of good and bad crusty experiences, from having a guy OD&P himself on the couch to like people donating food to the homeless. And so luckily no one died, but
that's good.
Still, we've had some pretty bad situations, throwing a couple couches out, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think the theme is really comes through really well in at least the first 10 pages I read.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, we've got like a character aesthetic pages that I didn't include in the ash can. We're gonna work on them a little bit more, and then there's a series of questions to kind of help the players develop their backgrounds with each other, because that's kind of another focus. Is crusties stick together, they hang out, they travel together, so I kind of wanted to have that be a part of like the backgrounds. All of the character development questions in the beginning of the game are kind of collective. So it's kind of just like the theme isn't that important, like the aesthetic part isn't that important, but it is kind of like partially it's like a joke about my own friends, and like kind of punching down a little bit just because I used to be there, but I do love those people too, and that lifestyle is important in theory. But yeah,
I like that clarification, in theory.
yeah,
Yeah, no. I've played Philly a couple times. It's a very different city than Indianapolis. I mean, you probably could have guessed, but the scene there was a lot more interesting. I always noticed it felt a little more closed off than a lot of places. Like if you weren't from
Yeah.
there, like even you're playing a show there and people wouldn't were kind of guarded,
Hmm.
and it felt insular, which
Yeah, the basement venues here are definitely even being from Philly and knowing people in the scene going to basement venues sometimes was like, who the fuck are you? Like you walk in, there's like 16 people in the basement, and you go in there with your one friend, and they're like everybody just like all right. But I've played a bunch of shows, and it's always fucking fun regardless. I
Oh, I definitely missed that a little bit. Just with the pandemic and everything, I ended up
Yeah,
leaving my last band. It's like, oh boy, we got to play one outdoor summer show
yeah,
this summer. Practice once a week for that, and I kind of just killed it for me.
yeah.
But we'll see what happens when things get back going.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I've got a couple of projects I was working on with some friends. I was in a drone, like a Doom drone project, and we did some harsh noise with a couple of friends. I'm actually hoping to record a CRUST tape for this game. I want to record a 4-track record for like actually themed after the theme of the game, like the lore of the game a little bit, but
Okay,
still be kind of like open ended. But I got to get my friends to actually call me back.
that's always the tough part. I was actually playing in a D-beat band before this, and then played some power violence. I was in like a
Oh,
skate
nice,
punk band for a while.
nice.
I know after this, I've been talking to a friend about maybe trying to do industrial stuff. I got
That's on my list. The noise project that we're doing, the drone thing, is on the edge of industrial, and I like really want to just like push into.
Yeah, I ended up buying a synth during the pandemic, so I was sitting around anyway. So I was like, well, might as well learn this.
Yeah.
So I got downloaded that, pirated an audio DAW, and just started making stuff. Nothing I'd probably show anybody yet, but
Yeah,
it's getting there.
that's awesome.
You mentioned you started playing like eight-ish years ago. How did you end up getting into tabletop games?
So my buddy Jason just invited me to play at their table. He was playing Princes of the Apocalypse, I think, at the time. Um, and he and his friends, I knew them, I know them all, but this specific group of people, they had actually been playing since like OD&D, like the original. And it was kind of cool to play with them because the one guy at the table actually helped write fourth edition. He worked for Wizards at the time, and he was one of the like lead writers of the game. And they were all play testers in that too. So it was cool to play with them, but yeah, I don't know. As much as I loved D&D, I still have a place in my heart for it, even though I don't own any of the books anymore. I sold them all. I just, something about it just never was like, this is great. It was just like, this is fun. And then yeah, a couple of years ago, I just kind of was like, I played Edge of the Empire. I think it was very soon after I had just started playing D&D, and the difference in game style of those two games just like blew my mind. And I was new to the entire world of tabletop, so that was so unique to me, and I didn't know that. And then yeah, probably 3 years ago I stopped playing D&D. I stopped playing games altogether, and then I really wanted to play some games with my friends online when the pandemic started, so I bought Fantasy Age and started playing that, and I really liked, and then like fell in and and just started just buying every game I could come across. I haven't read all the ones on my shelf, but I've read probably half of them at least, and I've played a third of them. And I love it. The world of TTRPGs is just like endless. It's such a great place to be for me anyway.
No, I think it's a great space, and I'm kind of the same way. I have a habit of buying books that I know I'll never play, but it's
Yeah.
like, oh, but maybe I can steal this for some from this for another game. That's why I tell
Yeah.
myself anyway.
Yeah.
But I like that. I've never played fantasy.
Fantasy Age is really good. And it was kind of the game that started my like the wheels turning for CRUST, really. And still now there's things from Fantasy Age that I'm using, but the main thing was bell curves, which I didn't ever think of when playing, just a D20 system, and then playing a game with a bell curve where your characters will relatively always be average. And it's like, that's good. Why wouldn't you want that? Like that mechanic, I guess it's like the way that they developed the mechanic, or I didn't develop a bell curve, but you know what I mean. The way that they use this system to add to the narrative of the game, like it cohesively works together. It's not just like I roll a d20 and I'm a level 19 wizard, but I rolled a 1 when I tried to cast a spell that I've been casting for 35 years. That never sits right with. But yeah, I really like the way that the system works, and it's got a cool magic system. I really like the way that it has subclasses. That's a big fan of. It's 3 main classes. It just has like a ton of different subclasses. You can customize your character a dozen days. Cool system. I just went on a little tangent there.
No, I think it's super interesting. I had a kind of a similar experience, I would say, learning the newest edition of Vampire V5. They kind of simplified it down to it's all D10s.
Mhm.
6 or above is a success. Pairs of crits explode, so they double. And then there's some failure mechanics and stuff, but like just realizing, okay, so the better I get at the skill, I get 1 more dice. So that's another 50% chance to get a success.
Mhm.
And just the mechanics really clicked with me. I think the problem with D&D is there's so much math. It's so much
Mhm.
like probability math that even
Yeah.
if you're building your character and you're putting dots and skills where they go, you're still like, okay, well, what's really the difference between a 16 and a 7?
Yeah, that's a big thing that I was trying to avoid, and I had at fault in the beginning of the development of CRUST 2. Was originally I had it as a 2d6 plus modifier system, mildly PBTA, except it wasn't really a fail forward system. Which was one of the main faults of it at the time. And one of the early play tests of that had a player for 3 hours failed every roll, and because he in character creation he rolled relatively poorly. He had like 1 stat that had a +1 modifier, and everything else was zeros or minuses. So yeah, 3 hours, failed every single roll, and the next day I scrapped every single thing in the page in the book, and I was like, we're starting over. We're doing a dice pool system, going to make this much more simple. And similar with Vampire, I mean, I've actually never read or played Vampire, but I have wanted to time. But I have kind of exploding crits. Doubles, triples, and quadruples, whatever in CRUST will basically compound damage. And I do plan to include crit tables, kind of like what DCC has.
Okay.
A little bit. I'm not going to go 500 pages of crit tables, but but I think I'm going to include some small, like almost like narrative crit tables that will just add like debuffs like that. And then the modifiers basically add to your dice pool. I try to keep it as simple as possible. And then I do plan to have like a talents, like a really simple like talent perk system, a little bit similar to Mothership. I don't know if you've read Mothership.
I have not. I've heard good things about it, but
Mothership is spectacular. I just ran a level 0 funnel the day for 4 players, 50 player characters.
Oh,
and
wow.
Only 8 of them survived at the end. It was so much fun. But the talent system in Mothership is basically 3-tiered. It's like trained, expert, and master. And there's a big list of trained, and then there's a smaller list of expert and a smaller list of master. And each one increases your percentage because it's a percentile.
Okay.
But I'm going to do something kind of similar where I'm going to have like perks that you can pick that will just give you a +1 die to a specific action, like lockpicking. You choose that one. Anytime you pick on a physical lock, you get a +1 to your roll. Something.
Okay.
Trying to keep it as simple as possible. But I also, I'm a big fan of rolling handfuls of dice. I like Warhammer.
I was gonna say, I love big pools of die. We talked about too, Vampire, you can get some big ones. One of our favorites is always Shadowrun. I don't know if you've ever played any.
I've never played or read, or I vaguely know about Shadowrun's style because I listen to Fandible and they play Shadowrun.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't really know anything other than just what I've heard on a podcast. I don't really know much about it.
Yeah, it's also a dice pool game, but if you stat your characters and build them to do like specific things, you'll be rolling like, you can get up to like 10, 15 dice on like a combat roll if you stack stuff properly. So I'm definitely a big fan of just getting like a big hunk of dice out and being like, all right, let's get the paper out, let's figure this out.
Yeah, that was kind of and that's kind of one of the things that I was aiming for in combat with Crust 2 was I don't think you'll ever really roll like a ton of dice. I think even with some of the perks that might give you some bonuses here or there, you'll probably roll like seven or there is like the skill share mechanic, so you can steal some dice from a dice pool and add that. So like at max 5, use them all in roll. But the I have like the mod action and the now in the update I've added aim for shooting. And when you roll and take that action, every success decreases the die face required for a hit. So taking the action instantly reduces 5. So normally you would need a 6 for a success. But now if you take the aim action on your next turn, a 5 and a 6 are both successes. And they count as crits together. If you rolled a 5 and a 6, that's a double. But depending on what your dice pool is when you roll on that action, you can decrease that number all the way down to 1. So on your next turn, you can roll 6 dice and they all are successes. So you could be rolling like a sextuple critical and you end up rolling 6 times damage shot or something like that. So it's kind of similar.
So you mentioned you've been playtesting this. What's your playtesting style like for creating a whole system? I know when I've been doing like adventures, I have it broken up into, and then I kind of sit people down, play through a scene, time how long I think it should be, see what goes wrong, fix that, and then move on to the next part. So I've been running in like smaller, like hour or so chunks. Just so I can kind of focus on bit by bit. Do you kind of run games where you focus, all right, I'm going to kind of focus mostly on combat now, or?
You're definitely more organized than I am. I definitely just kind of like wing it. Like I as far because that's my GMing style anyway. I will come up with like a simple plot hook and maybe a couple ideas. If I'm doing something that I know I'm planning like a playtest, I'll come up with a dungeon. For Crust, I've got a couple like pre-made dungeons, just like kind of reusing and recycling as I playtest, but changing what's in them. But that's kind of the focus was in the past, at least for the past 3 months or so, has just been trying to really hone in on the combat mechanic. The other things in the game, I think so far work pretty well. The downtime mechanics, I've got quite a few. I've got like dumpster diving and busking, and there is a dice game that I made for like game, and I am planning to add some more things. I'm thinking about throwing like tattooing in there just for fun, and if I can come up with this. But the last playtest I did went way further than I thought it would, with the players just really like digging into the simple things that I had written down and just creating like a humongous story out of all this stuff, which made me feel really confident in where those things were. But for the most part, yeah, I just kind of have been focusing on combat lately. I am completely revamping the hex crawl system to be more, I don't know, destination crawl kind of thing. I haven't really worked out that I have a whole hex crawl system that I play tested pretty extensively and it works pretty well. But I kind of decided a couple of actions going to not nix it, but just revamp the entire thing to turn into like a point crawl, because I'm kind of changing the game's style a little bit more to be focused on travel.
Okay.
Instead of, originally it was like you're in this place, you go out and you travel and you do things, you kill shit in dungeons, come across monsters, and then you go back to the settlement, whatever. But now I'm kind of like moving away from that, and I'm moving more into getting back into the mindset of being a crusty and hopping on a boxcar, and like what would that be like on a hostile planet where there isn't really a ton of places to just safely be. So we actually have some vehicles that we're adding, that'll be in the final version of this, that can be like upgraded as basically like a mobile base, to kind of help with that part of the traveling thing, where it's going to be like you can get like a VW bus or an actual school bus or a big box truck. And yeah, so those are kind of like, I ramble a little bit, but
oh no, I always thought that was super interesting. When I was touring in bands and booking shows, you'd always see other bands and what they'd travel in. Like I knew some guys who built like the back of their like big cargo van, they just had like 3 tiers of beds in the back, and you'd have to open the back doors and like climb in like a bunk bed, but it was only, you could only get in from the backside, and then you're just like, all right, you're sleeping. It's like pitch black in there other than your phone. And, you know, people would build stuff like that. I know at one point the guy who was playing bass for us had quit, so we didn't have his van anymore. So we were touring in my Honda Civic. So that was
oh man,
super fun. That was nothing but guitars, cymbals, a snare, and like amp heads.
Oh god,
just like,
that sounds like a nightmare.
Well, we booked this tour and he quit like a month ago, so we'll figure it out.
I went on tour managing my friend's art rock band across the entirety of the eastern and midwestern United States for about 3 weeks, and we rented a small 12 passenger like Dodge van, and oh my god, that was a nightmare. There were 6 people in the band, and they brought everything except for the drum kit, so like the amps and everything, and it was all packed in this small little van. 6 people and then me. It was worse.
I think the worst tour we ever did was an air conditioned van from about I would say North Carolina through like Texas. Was pretty miserable. It was like midsummer, just all the windows down. We're like, dude, can you please drive 90? We're sweating back here, just trying to get them to speed up to get the wind moving.
Oh, we were in the winter, and we were up in Michigan in a snowstorm, and that was horrible. And we pulled down through Cleveland, and we ended up stopping at the Cleveland Motel, which we looked up Yelp reviews the next day after we left. And holy shit, it was like only 2 people stayed in the motel room. Everybody else, we just slept in the van. It was terrible. There was a guy in a firefighter uniform. I'm not even kidding you. 3 a.m, walking through the lot, knocking on people's doors, selling meth. It was in the middle of a snowstorm. It was like insane. We were like, fuck.
Touring in the snow is awful.
It was terrible.
We played a fest up in North Dakota. We had a guy who was playing bass for us a while. I'm in Indiana. He lived in North Dakota, and he was playing in the band. So we're just, all right, everyone get in the car, go to one place, and then we'll go from there. But we played a fest up there, and it was in December, is like 2 weeks before Christmas. So we're driving, me and the drummer, from like northern Indiana up, and by the time we get up there, it snowed bad enough that the snow was higher on the sides of the road than our van. And like God. It almost looked like that Star Wars scene where they're driving through the Death Star tunnels.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But all you see is white for like hours, and occasionally like a stop sign that someone had like brushed off. But you lost track of time. We'd be like trying to like keep track of how many albums we'd listen to, and it was mind numbing after a while.
I drove through North Dakota one time, and I will never ever do that again. It was the width of it too. It was hours of just emptiness. Oh, sorry to anybody from North Dakota that's listening to this.
I always keep in my pocket, if I talk shit about anyone else's city or state, just remember I'm from Indiana, so I'm sure you can think of something way worse to say about us.
Yeah, I'm from Philly. You could feel free to just talk shit about me. That's fine.
I will say I had one of the worst experiences in my life when I was in Philly, but that's not Philly's fault.
It probably is Philly's fault.
So actually a pretty fun story now, but we had played a show and we booked like a tour to this guy that was booking a package for another band and asked us to hop. So we get there, we play, we had a day off, went to a show. That's where I talk about it's kind of awkward because we just like knew a guy who was supposed to be there, and he like told us, he's like, if anyone asks, just tell them you know me. And like everyone was just like, everyone asked who we were, they're like, okay, I guess one guy like texted him to make sure we weren't making it up. It was odd experience. So like we're like, all right, let's just go get some food. We left like halfway through, and we're leaving, walking back to our friend's house we're crashing at, and I just like pass out, and I guess I had like a seizure on the sidewalk.
Oh no.
It turns out I just had like some hormone problem. I'm fine now. But I guess someone had called an ambulance, and they immediately assumed that I was just ODing and didn't want to deal with me.
Yep.
And I was like in such a mood that they asked me my name and I refused to tell them. And then eventually I just yelled, "My name is Don Johnson and I'm not going fucking anywhere." And then just climbed in the back of our tour van. And they're like, "Well, we can't do anything," and just left.
Yeah, that's actually a problem in Philly with EMTs and police, especially near where I live, is if people are ODing, they will, if you call the EMTs and say this person is ODing, the time that they will show up is significantly longer than if you just say, there's a person that just had a heart attack on the street. So they've actually like the Narcan training and stuff like that, they'll actually tell you if you're calling an EMT not to say something else happened to the person, so that they'll show up faster, because they just don't give a fuck. It's really sad.
I have some friends, or well, one guy specifically now, but he's an EMT down in Louisville, and it's pretty rough down there too. I used to have like Narcan stuff at our old house. Now that I don't even have a house venue, I think I just gave it away. But yeah, I think that was my Philly experience.
Welcome to Philly.
Yeah, let's see. We got a couple minutes left. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
I don't know. I'm planning to continue to release some updates for CRUST in the coming. The final release of the game, I'm hoping for doing a Kickstarter in March.
Okay.
Which I'm nervous about, but I think we're gonna be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about. I mean, just in general, regardless, even if the game completely bombs, I'm hype about it, because it's a really cool game in my opinion, and I'm having a ton of fun writing it and playing it with my friends. So that's the most important part.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend is the main artist. All the artwork in the Ashcan and all the artwork for all of our games, not just CRUST, but anything else, is all done by her, and she's absolutely fantastic. And I'm really excited to see the final product, because we've got so much stuff that we're planning that isn't even remotely touched on in the Ashcan. So yeah.
Awesome.
Any other games that we're writing or working on, you can find on my itch, and got some things I think coming out on Exalted Funeral and physical printing soon. I'm just kind of like moving into self promo here, but
Oh no, that's fine.
Yeah.
You mentioned Kickstarter. Do you plan on doing like a physical release, or are you gonna try and? Okay.
Yeah, that's the main goal. From that's what this. So the Ashcan money, I'm putting into like a not a savings account, but I'm just leaving. I'm not touching that, and I'm going to use that for paying an editor for the final product, and then buying some advanced copies to test to see how it looks, the physical copies, and then using some of that for a little bit of like advance money for any of the Kickstarter rewards that we're going to have out. But yeah, I do plan to do a hardcover. I'm hoping hardcover, depending on the size of the book. In my estimation now, it's probably going to be about 100 pages. It could be a lot less depending on how much I decide to condense or just move or shrink or whatever, But I think probably between 80 and 100 pages is probably reasonable. And yeah, every day I come up with new things for it, and I'm like, should I just put that in something else? That's the only problem.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. I keep like a little like moleskin notebook on me at all times, and I'll just start writing ideas down, and then I'll sit down to like go over my notes, and I was like, well, this has nothing to do with the adventure I'm writing.
Yeah,
this is like, I'm not going to develop a new like system to add to someone else's game, so we're putting that idea aside. But so I kind of just like chuck all my ideas in a big pot and then go back there and be like, nope, maybe later. So yeah. It is kind of hard till you get closer to the end to be like, okay, this is what it's actually going to envelop.
Yeah, I've definitely had to get rid of things that I really wanted because they just didn't work, or they just didn't feel like they fit the vibe. There's things in there now that probably won't be there at the final product, but yeah, right now I'm very happy. The Ashcan, I think people are liking it. I'm loving it.
If you're one of our Patreons, we're gonna have a PDF for you guys to check out on the page. And if people have some free time, maybe we can get some like little games going on our server too. We have a couple like games channels. I've been doing playtests. I think my roommate's trying to do a Powered by the Apocalypse port of the Half-Life universe.
Oh wow, that sounds cool.
Yeah, He think he's at like 10 pages of like setting writing,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
so
Okay.
we'll see what he does with that, but
I might need an invite to your server. That sounds so cool.
absolutely. But yeah, I suppose we're hitting about that time. Thanks for coming on. I know it's
Yeah.
kind of short notice, but
No, thank you so much for having me. It's awesome.
yeah. And maybe we'll have you on again closer to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I love that.
Cool. Well, unless you have anything else, I think that's an interview right there.
Sick.